I'd like to go ahead and call to order this regular city council meeting for Monday, July 24th, 2023, 7 p.m. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Barb, will you call the roll, please?
Lanyon, Pratt, Jenkins,
Here.
Van Allsburg,
Here.
Rhines,
Here.
Gilroy,
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
And we have two council members that are on vacation, so I'm looking for a motion to excuse both Councilman Pratt and Councilman Lanyon.
Motion to excuse.
Thank you so much. Do I have support?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now I'm looking for approval as the, for our evening's agenda as submitted, unless there are changes that need to be made.
Move that we approve the agenda as submitted.
Thank you so much. Do I have support?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries again. We have an opportunity for audience participation with a maximum of 5 minutes per presentation, if anybody would like to come forward. All right, thank you so much. Council meeting minutes of June 26, 2023. I'm looking for approval on those minutes as submitted unless there are changes that need to be noted.
Move to approve the minutes.
Thank you so much. Do I have support? Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And Terry, thank you so much for taking the time to look over our
My
finances
Yeah.
in Brandon's absence. So I'll go ahead and turn that over to you for our accounts payable.
Okay, I had 2 or 3 questions and you took care of them all, so,
And that would be John that took care of them.
John, yes.
Yeah, thank you so much.
The city manager,
Yes.
John Hannafin.
Yes, thank you. For our viewing.
For our viewing audience,
audience
yes,
out there.
okay. Got it. So, does anybody have any questions based on any? Okay.
I did not.
So I'll make a motion to accept checks 76829 through 76875, ACH 454 through 470, and EFT 471 for a grand total of $99,460.68.
Thank you so much, Terry. I do appreciate that. Do I have support for that motion?
Second.
All right, thank you both. Are there any questions or discussion regarding our accounts payable for this evening? No? Barb, will you call the roll, please?
Van Allsburg,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Jenkins.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Moving on to our action items, we do have a very lengthy list. What I would really like to ask council members, if you do have any questions regarding any of the action items, please just raise your hand. I will call on you in order. But I want to be very mindful of our time because I have a feeling this meeting may go a little bit longer than normal. So let's just try to keep everything moving forward positively. So the first is our 2023 biannual bridge inspections engineering service agreement. I know that our engineer Scott Reeves is on vacation today, so I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to our manager, John Hannafin.
Thank you, Mayor Gilroy, members of council. So this is our annual bridge inspection. We do have the 2 bridges in town, North Putnam and the not as well-known Wall Street, which is over Deer Creek. That's a bridge that next time we have strategic planning in February, I want to talk to council about, see if we can somehow get out from under that. Because it's not the bridge to nowhere, but it is the bridge to one place, so, and it dead ends in the township. But be that as it may, we're required by MDOT and by Federal Highway Administration to inspect our bridges every 2 years. We did budget for this year. Manick and Smith's provided this service in the past and has done a good job. So we're recommending that council approve the agreement for professional services with Manick and Smith Group.
All right, great. Any questions for Manager Hannafin? Yes, Terry.
There's notations in there about shear erosion and so forth. Is that, we don't have any professional opinion on it yet. Is there an unofficial personal opinion that this is an issue?
Yes.
Yeah, it's scour erosion, which is just the water washing away the abutments of the bridge. There doesn't appear to be any issue. I mean, those bridges are generally in good shape. The Deer Creek Bridge is a little older and probably needs some work at some point. But again, that's why from our strategic planning, and there's a lot of different ways that can go. But again, it's a bridge that doesn't really serve anybody but one house that's in a different jurisdiction.
Great.
Just one of those anomalies of having a community that's, several hundred years old.
Great,
Got it.
thanks, that's great. Question, Terry, yes, Dan?
It sounds like we're going to want to take this up at another point in time anyways, but I know we have several members of council that this is the first time this has come up before. And Scott, Engineer DeVries' discussion here, again, it was the scour, had anything but, just a notation for the future meeting or whatever, you know, what ways do we have to deal with that if that bridge, Wall Street Bridge, because, yes, the bridge itself is in our jurisdiction, but the only places that lead to are it's outside our jurisdiction. If it was to need any substantial work, there are ways to deal with that that aren't large costs to our taxpayers, I guess was my.
Yes,
Through
John?
the chair, so really, the challenge, I mean, if we had to replace that bridge, we would almost be better off buying the property on the other side of it.
Right.
I mean, as crazy as that sounds, so.
Is that the only access point for that resident that lives
Yes.
in the township?
Correct.
Okay, and township has no skin in the game, so to speak, when it comes to the expense of that bridge, because it's city property?
It is, correct.
Okay, all right, okay. Well, that's definitely something that we want to be mindful of in that further discussion point. So I would say that probably sooner rather than later, we put a plan together of action for that and involve the resident as well, because, yeah, that'll be something that I would hate for us to get caught. With that being said, would somebody like to make the motion for the 2023 biannual bridge inspections engineering service agreement?
I would move that we provide authorization for the Manic Smith Group to do the engineering services for the 2023 biennial bridge inspections in the amount of $5,600.
Thank you so much. Do I have support?
Or,
Thank you. Barb, will you call the roll, please?
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Hanson,
yes,
Jenkins,
Yes?
Van Osberg,
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. Moving on to our next action item, it is the M43 Grand River Avenue Road Diet Resolution. Again, I will turn this over to City Manager John Hannafin.
Thank you, members of council, Mayor Gilroy. So we've been talking about this for some time. This similar resolution was adopted more than 6 years ago in May 2017. And this is the resolution to request MDOT allow us to move from a 4-lane Main Street down to 2 lanes in each direction of the center turn lane. That's for M43. You don't need a resolution for the Putnam portion because that is under our jurisdiction. So tonight, the action item is simply to adopt the resolution. There's a number of whereas in it. I'm not sure that it's necessary to read all of it, but happy to answer any questions you may have about the resolution. We do have, assuming that is approved, we do have a discussion on the regular agenda, or farther down the discussion about road diet, and we'll talk about timing and what might lie ahead for us with this project.
Okay. And I'm glad that you did mention that because I think that's important to point out. So I would say that if council would like to move forward with this resolution, and then we can talk about that schedule and that timing in our discussion items, that would be the more appropriate place for it. With that being said, I'm looking for that requested action.
make a motion to approve the resolution to approve the submittal of a request, Michigan Department of Transportation for converting M43 Grand River Avenue from 4 to 3 traffic lanes.
Thank you so much. Do I have support?
Second.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions or discussion regarding the resolution that we're passing? All right, Barb, will you call the roll, please?
Gilroy,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes,
Jenkins,
Yes?
Van Osberg,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Thank you so much. Moving along, we have our next action item, which is the MML, which for viewing communities in Michigan Municipal League. It is the fund trustee election. This is something that happens every year. They submit to us the candidates. So I'll go ahead and turn this over to John so he can give a little bit better explanation.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Gilroy, members of council. So MML they do manage our workers' compensation fund, among other things. What this is, it's fairly straightforward. There's 6 trustees for the board that are up for election this time, and there are 6 candidates. So unless somebody really has a problem with that Devin Olson guy at Munising, which probably none of us know, or Adam Smith. No, these are all our long-term board members, and I know both of them personally, so they would appreciate the humor if they ever see her. But we would just ask that council adopt the ballot as submitted. Again, MML does a good job on our behalf, and so that's all.
All right. With that being said, I'm looking for that motion to accept the ballot as submitted.
I would move.
All right. Both, thank you very much. Do I have support? Thank you so much. If there's no other questions or discussion, Barb, will you call the roll for that, please?
Hanson,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes?
Van Allsburg,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes. All right, next on our agenda is our interim police chief contract extension. We have a memo in here. We know that Chief Young has been filling that position for us for approximately 6 months. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this over to City Manager John Hanfin so we can give a little bit better explanation about this extension.
Thank you, Mayor Gilroy, members of council. Chief Young came out of retirement to help us out back in January with the initial 6-month contract term. We're asking for an extension for 6 months as the contract allows. Later on in the agenda, we'll talk about the process for hiring the new police chief. But what this will allow us to do is have Chief Young be part of the search. It'll also allow sometime, hopefully if the schedule holds, Chief Young would be here for approximately a month with the new chief, whoever that may be, and that will really help with the onboarding process. So, you know, Chief Young's done a great job in the past and currently, and so, again, I'd have you answer any questions you may have. Chief is here if you have any questions for him, but that's the methodology behind the extension.
Great, thank you so much. And just to point out again, this will come up in our discussion items, that police chief search process. So that would be the time where we would ask our questions as to how this will roll out and possibly, what we might be looking for differently in that next chief that comes into the city of Williamston for the police department. So with that being said, I am looking for that motion for this recommendation to extend the chief's contract.
Make a motion to extend the contract with Robert Bob Young as interim police chief for a 6-month period, July 28th, 2023 to January 31st, 2024, for the new annual rate of $85,800 payable bi-weekly as per the original contract.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you so much, Scott. Both of you. If there's no further questions or discussion, Barb, will you call the roll, please?
Hanson,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes?
Van Allsburg,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes. All right, next on our list is planning and management intern. I think this is a great idea. I'm gonna turn it right over to John. So take it away.
Good thing I had some lemon water to kind of calm my voice. I'm doing a lot of talking today. So this summer, we're doing quite a bit of stuff, great stuff, updating our master plan, the parks plan, starting with the DDA marketing plan. We have a grant for Memorial Park. We have a lot of presentation work we'll be doing with that and prep work for that. And so what I'm asking for tonight is the hiring of a planning and management intern for up to a 12-week period, starting July 28th. This is a little bit different. This wouldn't be a direct hire. This would be someone who would be paid a stipend. And so it would be about $150 a week. That punches out roughly to, about between $12 to $15 an hour, depending on the amount of work that they do. I've had this same kind of format in past communities when it's been very project specific like this. There's some very specific tasks that are done for each of those items. A lot of it is a survey tool in the community engagement, and those are things that it's good work. It can be a little bit tedious, but it's great work for a recent graduate or someone heading to grad school to really, they may not know totally about the governmental process, but we're not asking them to be the experts, we're just asking them to contribute. So that's what we're asking for tonight. The total outlay for this would be about $1,500, and if it works really, really well, this is something that we would just roll through year after year. The great thing is, we are close to several colleges and universities, and I don't think we'll have any lack of interest. Ironically, I did, independent of this, someone cold called me and said that they're starting out grad school in the winter term at Michigan State, and they were interested in if we had any internship opportunities. And I said, we didn't yet, but we very well may.
Well, I think that's a great idea. I mean, I know that it's, some of these projects, while they might not be very heavy lifts, it's
Right.
nice to always have an extra
Correct.
person on projects. So I'm excited about this. It gives a graduate student an opportunity to get, hands-on experience. So I think that's a great idea. And yes,
Just a question, as an intern, will they get any type of credit, or could they get any type of credit for schooling?
Yeah, I mean, they potentially could. That would really be between them and their university or their
Sure.
college, but we would certainly structure it that way.
Mhm.
Again, the idea is it's 10 to 12 hours of
Mhm.
working time
Sure.
per week. So,
yeah. I mean, I know, being affiliated with MSU and previously with Lansing Community College, whenever we had any type of externships or internships, there was usually criteria from that department that the student would possibly bring in to, a city manager and go through like a checklist, take that back to, that department, and then they would, as long as they're meeting all the requirements, then they would earn credit however that higher education institution has their program set up, so. Yeah. Any other questions or discussion on this?
Good idea.
All right, I'm looking for that recommended
I
motion.
would move to authorize city manager to hire a planning management intern for the period of July 25th to October 13th, 2023, with a weekly stipend of $150.
Thank you so much. Do I have support? Thank you both. If there's no further discussion or questions, Barb, will you call the roll, please?
Jenkins,
Yes.
Van Allsburg,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
All right. Our last action item for the evening is the appointment of Byron Eldring to the Parks and Recreation Commission for a term to expire 6/30 of 2026. I'm looking for that motion.
So moved.
Thank you so much. Do I have support?
Support.
Thank you all. Barb, will you call the roll, please?
Jenkins,
Yes.
Van Allsburg,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
All right, thank you. That concludes our action items for this evening. Our discussion items, the very first is road diet. In that memo that was presented, if you wanted to scroll back up to it, I will turn this over to City Manager John Hannafin. He can kind of go over this timing of this project, and then we'll open it up to questions and discussions. And I would just ask again that I acknowledge you before you move on with your questions or comments.
So we've been marching along with the idea that we were going to start this project this summer, and no pun intended, we ran into a little bit of a roadblock with MDOT, and that's the requirement to use their pre-qualified contractor, and there's really one that we can use, which is sort of frustrating, but that's what we're kind of bound to use. That contractor doesn't have room in their schedule as of tonight to do the work this summer, and so this would potentially get moved to the spring, so hopefully we could get it done. The only side benefit of this is there is a possibility that we could get some grant funds to pay for 80% of the project. And so if we do delay, then we would be able to receive those funds. We'll know more on that. The Tri-County is setting their agenda, and Tri-County is our regional planning agency, and it would have to run through them first. So their agenda will be set in the next couple weeks, and this would go to the September meeting, and so then we know at the September meeting whether we get the funding or not. And if we didn't, then we could regroup, and if we're doing it on our own, we're doing it on our own. I think we're all committed to doing the project. But again, it's just, it's sort of it's a real challenge. This is not the first community I've worked in where the Main Street has been under somebody else's jurisdiction, and it can really, we have our best timelines and our best ideas of the way things are gonna go, and I don't think it's arbitrary. I just think that when you have a road agency that's involved in, $500 million worth of projects every year, that, a $200,000 or $100,000 project doesn't get as much attention until it does. So it's frustrating, I get it, but I think that it's worth pursuing the grant funds to pay for a portion of it.
Sure.
And we'll communicate out to the public. I mean, it also provide opportunity for more public input, which is never a bad thing.
Correct. And just to be clear, whether we were applying for grant dollars or not, we have this budgeted. This isn't
Right.
something that we're not able to pay for.
That's
We've
right.
been working on this for our viewing committee. we've honestly been discussing this for 10 years.
Yep.
This whole conversation started back in 2013. This is something that we've been passionate about, trying to make sure that Grand River and Putnam are safe in our downtown district at that Four Corners. So this isn't something that now we're waiting to see if we can get some money. It's always nice to apply for grant dollars and be awarded grant dollars. But if we don't receive them, we will still move forward
That's
with
right,
this
yeah.
project.
100.
It's just a delay in timing now because it's controlled by MDOT and the vendors that they use, so. Dan, go
I
ahead.
mean, basically, we're delayed anyways until we get an MDOT contractor, so we might as well apply to
Yes,
get some of this paid for
absolutely.
while we're delayed
Right.
anyways.
Absolutely. And of course, anything we can do to help, as far as that grant process goes, you know, I know that we're all happy to roll up sleeves and help any way we can. Terry?
So this is a really fundamental question, I think I lost this somehow. Are we talking about the MDOT thing on Grand River? Are we
The
talking about the
restriping. Yeah, restriping.
redoing
Nope, the restriping,
the 3 lanes?
the 3
or 4
lane, the
lanes?
turn lane, and that
So
main
that's probably
section
not gonna happen this year.
till
Okay,
spring.
got it, all right.
So, any other questions?
I
Yes,
actually
Scott?
did have a question about the logistics of that kind of format. Does it become illegal to pass somebody in the left-hand turn lane in that situation?
Chief Young?
Yes, it's illegal to do that.
Okay.
Alright. So this is something that will stay on our discussion items. We will not take off the road diet by any way, shape, or form, because it's always good to have the updates, even if there's no news to share, nothing to report. So just keep us informed, and again, let us know if there's anything we can do through this new process with this possibility of a grant.
Thank you.
Moving on, we're gonna go ahead and jump right into the construction project update. This is regarding our projects that we've been talking about for the past 8 to 10 months, maybe even a little bit longer. That would be the North Putnam road projects, our multiple road projects that were funded. So I'm gonna turn this over to John, and again, please ask to be acknowledged, because I have a feeling this is gonna take maybe, there might be some discussion on this one. So, go
Yeah,
ahead.
so the good news is we made it across the finish line for the $3 million federal grant allocation, so that's the best news as far as construction projects that I have to report tonight. Including in the packet is the schedule for North Putnam Street, and you can see that it proposes starting on August 14th, which is a Monday, which is 3 weeks from today. So we're optimistic that the project can start then. We expect it to start then, it's part of their contract. And that we know it's a tight time frame in the winter. There's a couple different options. You know, asphalt plants typically close anywhere from November 15th to Thanksgiving to December 1st. So in the event that asphalt wasn't available, there's a couple of things we can do for temporary pavement. One is just contract, and it's written in their contract to do it 3 ways, really. It's asphalt if it's available, they would be responsible for their own temporary asphalt, or there's the possibility of a thin layer of concrete for temporary pavement. So that's the overall schedule. We know it's gonna be some difficulty with school starting a little bit earlier this year. We're gonna work our hardest, we're really leaning on the contractor as hard as we can to get the stretch, at least from the bridge to Riverside open. Riverside to Bismarck will be closed primarily for the length of this project. And by closed, I mean closed through traffic, not closed to residents. But we really want to work on getting that section over across the bridge to Riverside so that the buses can operate as they normally do. We know it's going to cause some hardship. We understand that. The rebid really slid the schedule out, but without rebidding it, the project wouldn't be possible. So that's it. That's for North Putnam. Not included in this discussion, but it was included in the memo that was approved in June by City Council to move forward with this, with Williamston Lloyd being moved to winter projects. It's back in the memo that Mr. DeVries put together for all of you for whatever the first meeting in June was. And it did contemplate starting Williamston Lloyd sometime in the winter, late spring, and then wrapping up roughly a year from now.
Okay. So I'll just go ahead and kick this off. So this is an aggressive schedule. It is falling about Dan, you have kids in school, when does school start?
21st.
21st. So we're starting this project 7 days before school starts. We already know that we have an issue with the Riverside traffic with drop-offs, pickups. I guess my real big question is, are we able to get anything, can we print this schedule and get it out to those residents that are affected? Number one, have another touch with them so that it doesn't come as a shock or as a surprise. Second to that, chief, this is gonna be a nightmare and a mess. I'd like to know how we plan on handling that, just because it's gonna be overly congested, with school starting, with buses, parents, and then also, construction equipment. And I know that in contract language, they have certain milestones and expectations that Iron Horse has to hit, but going into this fall weather, we know how Michigan can be, and what are our contingency plans if we get delayed by weather and it really starts, having an effect on trying to achieve a December 12th end date?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair question. There's always construction contingencies built into the schedule and built into the contract by both parties. The reality of this project, if we didn't, with rebid, if we didn't award a contract this manner, this project won't get done.
Right.
And then so we went through the disruption of the neighborhood, of removing a lot of mature trees for the sake of construction.
Yep.
And then we would be effectively back to square one. So there's gonna be inconvenience, and I'm the one who has to deal with that inconvenience on a day-to-day basis, and it's not gonna keep me up at night, but we're gonna do the very best we can to communicate the schedule. I'm taking a lot more, shall we say, aggressive role in dealing with our engineering and our engineering contracting, and we'll do our best to mitigate the inconvenience.
Right, and I know that, I know, John, historically, you weren't here when we were awarded the funding for that stretch of road, and just for our viewing community, and there's several council members that have been on council long enough to know that, there's always a pot of money sitting out there for MDOT, and that applies to our primary roads, which that Putnam is one of them. Same thing when we did our Middle Street project, because that's an emergency route off of Grand River. So we apply for this funding several years in advance, and then MDOT says, okay, you're on this cycle with this year. So to roll back a little bit, I just am curious as to, did we really kind of miss our opportunity by not trying to bid this earlier this spring? Like, should we have put this out for bid at some point during the 2022 calendar year?
I mean, to be candid, this project should have been bid out when I was working 30 miles south of here.
Right. So we're gonna learn from our mistakes, and we won't let this happen, hopefully in the future where, we're continually, hitting these delays and everything, so.
When I look at I guess as an observer and thinking about the projects that have been delivered, the elevator street, which was relatively simple because there wasn't a whole lot of inconvenience for there. The last major street project before that was Mullet and Middle.
Right.
And that was 2017 or 18.
Right.
So it's been quite a number of years since we've done a big project here. I can tell you moving forward, if we were conceptualizing a project for 2024, for example, as a clean slate, Williamston, Lloyd hadn't been talked about, those would have already been engineered, and we would have those bids on the street right now. So we would know, and we'd have a schedule, we'd have price certainty, and those projects would launch roughly almost 13 months after they've been conceptualized. And so moving forward, so we know we're gonna do Williamston Lloyd next summer. The next projects that are done in 2025 will be conceptualized, and we'll have an idea of what they are and what the engineering is gonna look like by Memorial Day of 2024.
Right.
So we always wanna be, 12 to 13 months in advance. And I can tell you that hasn't been the case here. I mean, it's easy to sign blame, but it doesn't matter
No.
because I'm here now and this is what we're gonna do.
Well,
So-
and it's continuous improvement, we learn
Right.
and we do better our next opportunities. That was really kind of my, comments on this. I just really want to make sure that we communicate to the residents what the schedule looks like. I mean, short of actually putting this on City of Williamston, you know, letterhead and making sure that it gets, delivered to the Putnam and Riverside and Bismarck and Church Street residents that this is going to affect. This is gonna be a huge impact, and it's gonna move probably quicker than we can anticipate, even though this looks like it's gonna be, you know, about a 4-month stretch. Yes, Dan?
So, on the communication piece, because there's things that could have been done better, but this is kind of where we're at. So, can we make sure, and I'm sure we're already on it, but communicating out through all the different communication channels we have about all the detour routes that are gonna be needed. If we could even hit that up with the school sends out all kinds of email blasts and all that, hey, you're gonna have to detour this way. The sooner we start getting, and there's always gonna be people that I didn't hear.
Sure.
But if we can point back to, well, we had it on the Williamston Police Department Facebook page, we had it on the City Council Facebook page, we had it on the city website, the school sent out 3 emails on these dates.
Yeah.
We
agree.
want it to be as out there as we can get.
Oversaturated.
Um,
Oversaturated.
And that's still not gonna alleviate the pain, but then it's not, oh crap, it's the first day of school and I didn't realize I had to detour and then it's da-da-da-da. So we need, and I'm sure you guys are already thinking about that, but that was top of mind for me. Also, when you mentioned that one of the contingency plans for if asphalt's not available and we're, having to pour cement in December, is that additional cost for removal or any of that on the other end, does that all go on Iron Horse?
Okay.
I wanted to make sure that, and that's kind of what I've got.
Yeah. Yes, Terry?
Just a quick question about the detour thing. What's the general plan for the detour? You go to Zimmer and Sherwood or something? Or
That's correct.
and Van Etter sort of thing?
Yep.
Okay.
Because the Dietz Road Bridge is still not fixed and
Can kids still walk to school?
they can.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna be so dangerous they can just.
Yeah.
Parents could drop their kids off at the bridge and have them walk.
That would probably clog up McCormick though, wouldn't it? I mean,
You could drop kids off at,
There's also the foot-
High Street.
there is the
There's the
footbridge,
footbridge.
yep, there's the footbridge.
Yeah,
I
that's a
mean,
quick walk.
I don't know if you have an opportunity to maybe sit down with Adam prior to help craft that language, but that probably would be ideal. And then, Dan, go ahead, you had your hand up again.
John had just brought up Dietz, and this is something that's been mentioned since March. People, oh, why did the city not plan this until after Dietz is done? We've had this pot of money
Yep.
for quite a few years now, and this has been in process. And as far as I'm aware, when we started planning this and putting it out to bid, we knew nothing about when Dietz Road was going to be fixed. Dietz has been out for nearly 10 years, and it's not something that we control. So, that it's not that we didn't want to or we refuse to work with anyone else. It's not something we control.
Right, correct. So, because we're talking about construction, and if there's no other questions, I also want to make sure that we are very clear with our explanation regarding the Williamston Lloyd Street, because, I mean, we've already gone through 10 months of the rumor mill with Putnam. And I think, it would be nice to be very clear with an explanation that Williamston Lloyd is getting postponed. I know for Dan and I both, and we've had conversation with John, we've seen a lot of people with spray can paint, on William Street, and we know that doesn't have anything to do with it, but that's because we're both, on council, we have a direct access to John. I have a feeling most of the residents on William Street are getting very excited because they've seen so much activity, so I think, we need to put together some type of, paragraph or blurb that can, again, be put out in social media on our webpage that those 2 projects are being postponed till spring. And not to get super excited about flags and paint on the street or in people's yards. And I guess I would like to know too, what fiber optics project is happening on William Street?
It's actually, there's a there's a convergence of a bunch of different things. It's
Okay.
that consumers is also, the primary mystics are for consumers.
Okay,
I
consumers
checked the
energy,
mystics
okay.
today. So that's why it's sewer and water are marked. And again, they mark them all the way up to the house because, consumer also has individual service leads.
Right.
And so you have to be mindful of those. so
Okay,
that they're
all right, yeah,
always-
so that would make sense, gas and all that type of stuff. Well, I wasn't sure because there's also like different colors going down the center of the road too. And I saw new green paint today, orange paint last week, blue paint. So I just, I think probably people are starting to go, oh, something's happening, but it's not what they are expecting.
Always free to call me
Yep,
directly.
yep,
I
and-
never sleep.
Well, I'm not gonna, I'll make sure that we just continually give out city hall's phone number. But Terry, go ahead, you had your hand up.
We go for Lloyd Street, for those of us who live
Right,
there.
yes, yeah.
Yeah. Same thing.
Yep.
Yeah,
All right.
we're excited.
Any other questions regarding construction project updates? I think we were pretty thorough about that, and I appreciate it, John. And I know that you guys are working very hard and very diligently, so it does not go unnoticed. Police chief search process, and again, if you guys want to scroll back up to that memo, but I'll go ahead and turn that over to John so he can talk to us about that.
Yeah, so now that we know we have coverage for the foreseeable future, we'll start advertising a week from today. We'll set up interviews the week of the 21st and 28th of August, it's schedule dependent. The panel will be interim Chief Young, police department staff, Bonnie Green, Officer Don Smith, who's the union steward, and myself. And then, the idea is to bring in 3 to 5 candidates. I don't think we'll have any issue getting quality candidates, just based on the interest that, the calls that I've received since the position was vacant this winter. If we do need second interviews, we would do those the week of September 4th. We would select a top candidate and do background checks, and then we would present by the September 25th council meeting a police chief for your approval.
Okay.
And then the chief would start ideally first or second week of October, never quite sure what people's employment situation is. If they're leaving somewhere, they're currently employed, we want to certainly allow them to provide some level of professional notice. And that's really where the extension for Chief Young comes in, is to make sure that we don't lose a good candidate because, or we're caught without a police chief, so.
Will we have an opportunity to obviously see what, it's gonna be a public posting, but can we see the posting? And do we know how we're going to change that in comparison to when Chief retired the first time? And we brought in Chief Wolf, and we were very lucky to have him for 2 years. He accomplished quite a bit as far as updated training, equipment purchases, all that good stuff, and really, like we expected and anticipated, he moved that department forward. But do we know how do we have any ideas of what we want to see differently in a chief this time around? He was a lot on the road, which was fantastic, a working chief. But, I think there's probably that little bit of a better balance that maybe we need to find. So, are we gonna tweak our position description by,
I think
this time around?
Yeah, I think that really what will be key is to have somebody who has some chief experience in a town that's around our side, even a town that perhaps a little smaller. It's pretty common for folks to be in command in a larger agency, whether it's state police or county or even MSU, and then go to be a police chief in a smaller town and get some experience that way. I think that will really help some context. I think someone who's context sensitive to the area, I think those are important things.
Okay.
So. And if anybody has suggestions on, again, I was around for the process the first time, I can look at the documentation. It's pretty good, and it's
Right.
pretty solid, and it's really, it's incumbent upon us to do a good job of vetting
Sure.
and presenting a good candidate to all of you.
Yeah,
Yes,
I have wondered this before, and that is there, because the police thing is so important these days, and, we've got it right here. The whole time I've been in Williamston, it's been good. And I'm wondering if there are different philosophy perspectives that you're gonna run into when you get different candidates? Or is it more that everybody's kind of thinking the same way in terms of small town policing, do you think?
That's a lot to unpack. I think that, again, I think the processes that we have laid out is good. And again, I think the processes the charter specifies. you know, it's my job to recommend the best candidate to all of you, and I have experience in hiring police chiefs and hiring just about every municipal position that you have. I have some contacts, you know, in the police world that are winding up their careers, and they don't want to move on to being a chief, but they'll be good resources for when candidates come in to help vet them if we can. So I'm confident going through the process, we'll get the right person, the right candidate. I mean, it's a big part of my job is to present someone that is good and someone that'll serve the community for a long time. So I take that very, very seriously, obviously.
And John, you can probably answer this, or Chief, please chime in. But I know we'll post it on our city website, but what are the other mechanisms that we would use for posting?
So there's the internal posting, there's MACP, Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police, and then there's MML.
Okay.
Those are the larger ones. I don't really see the need to go like through MTA, which is Township Association, because they all link to each other. Same with Michigan Association of Counties. I think that's a good start.
Okay.
I'd agree.
Yeah, I think that would cast a wide enough net for
Okay.
us.
Excellent.
There's a lot of word of mouth, and this is a valued community.
Sure.
We're gonna generate good candidates. There's
Right.
folks that really will wanna work here.
Gotcha.
And they know that the position is going to be advertised.
Right. Right. Yes, Terry.
This is sort of peripheral, but how's things going on recruiting policemen?
I was gonna mention that in my report, but I can
Oh,
mention
yeah.
that now. It's
Okay.
doing good. The action the council took on the contract was very helpful. I've got 2 candidates to send to the academy.
Sure.
That's the good news, yes. One's a young man in his early 20s, who was one of our reserves, and the other's a young woman in her early 40s. That's having a midlife career change. So that's the good news. And that's not easy in this environment, because there's not that many people who want to be police in this environment these days. And so the not so good news is we cannot get them into the academy until January. The state has a grant, the state understands the state policing is in now, and so there's a grant that pays for their salary and the academy. So the academies are full. As soon as I came back as interim, I tried to get a slot in the August school. We're 7th on the waiting list, but we're guaranteed 2 slots in the January school, which means they will be of little value to us till about a year from now, by the time we go to the academy, get through a field training officer. But the good news is we've stopped the exodus, it appears.
Okay.
And that the ones we have are staying. I just want people that want to be here. If they want to be at a bigger place, go. I want people that want to serve our community. And I would agree with what the city manager says. We will not have any problem getting a quality police chief. This is a desirable place to be. And so I've had people calling me, and as soon as you've now made that decision, we get it out there, I'm gonna let them know
Sure.
it's there.
It'll be nice to have a nice pool. I mean, I think when you retired and we had Chief Wolf, I mean, we probably had 15 to 20 candidates, and we whittled it down and
Very good
everything.
candidates.
So, I mean, we are gonna get a good pool, and like City Manager Hanneman said, it's up to that committee that they have established to make sure that they can present a candidate that will value this community, move it forward, just like, Chief Young has done, Chief Wolf, Chief Young again, and just, continue to carry on what has already been established and take it to that next level. Questions?
Did I answer your question enough
Yeah, I
on
think-
our staff?
And we'll still come back to you, Chief, because
Okay,
I want you to be able to have your time. Dan?
I guess my only thing, and everything I'm hearing, I agree with, I like this timeline. Like when you said you were looking for someone that had, not that we wouldn't look at any other candidates, but people that had worked in similar sized communities. I think having people to choose from, and people from larger organizations apply, will certainly look at them, but people that know that this is what the job is. This is, your neighbor down the street is also the one you might be pulling over, or whatever.
Yep.
We're 3,800 people.
Yep.
I think that's people that have worked in that environment and know that philosophy.
Well, and I think that's where we value Chief Young is, he had a very long and distinguished career here, and I mean, if he didn't know everybody that lived in Williamston, I'd be surprised. But, you know, that's the thing that he can really express to those candidates is that you build those community relationships, whether it's with residents or businesses. And I mean, your biggest, you know, relationship that I know you had was National Night Out with Beckham. They're such a huge supporter. And then all the other service organizations. I mean, like I said, if Chief couldn't name every person in the city, I'd be very surprised because he's so well liked and everything. So I'm really glad that you're gonna be a part of this process, Chief.
Thank you.
So on
Yes, Terry.
the positive side, I agree with you that I think Williamston would be, if I was gonna be a policeman, I think it'd be it's a place that I would want to be a policeman at. That's true, and that's the positive thing. Negative side is we should have 6 policemen and plus a chief. We only have 3 policemen and an interim chief. So there's like a disconnect there. And so my question is there anything else that we can do that you would like us to do to fix that?
We're good for now. We have actually 4 officers right now. They're very dedicated. I cannot say enough, the action you already took made a big difference to keep the people we have. And they can see light at the end of the tunnel. A year is a long way, and I've got a schedule, and so when I was here for 11 years before, there were times we came close not to having 24/7 coverage. To me, that is a huge barrier. I don't want to break. There's people who move here because of that. And I think we can still do that with the 4 we have until we get the additional 2 up to speed. And so, and the city manager's got some idea on staffing and supervision for a longer term. And so, but that's gonna be down the road long after me for a year or 2. But I feel like we're at a good spot. When I took this 6 months ago and I saw what we had, I said, I'm not sure I can do this. Find police in this environment. But I think we're there. And so, and the ones we have now seem to be stable. They seem to want to be here.
Okay, so I want you to understand that from the point of view of the city council, this is an important function and we want it to be done well.
Thank you. I feel that very strongly, to support the city council, and I also feel very strongly from the community. People stop me constantly on my bike and want to talk. The city councilman's wife, I thought I was gonna get run over, and she just wanted to stop and talk to me. and so,
Kate can be very persuasive.
Yes, yes. But it was a wonderful
Tonight.
conversation. But it's not just her. I mean, that day I probably had half a dozen people out there, and so.
Is it 1 week from tonight for the night out thing? Is that?
I'm gonna let him do that in his report. Actually,
Okay.
Steve has a
I-
question regarding
Okay.
this, and then we're gonna keep moving along.
Right.
We'll come back to Chief when we do
Probably
this.
about a report.
Okay.
And just, the 2 people that are gonna go in January, are they hanging out until January? Are we using them in
Yes.
some way?
So one is a reserve. He's in, and so he's riding along on a regular basis. The other gal has a full-time job, but she's coming in a couple times a week because I say, you know, you have to pass this stuff, and it's better for you so you can see what's going on here to put it in context what you see in the academy with this experience. And so they're both very dedicated to that, and so so they're already being enculturated to what we do and how we do it with all the officers, and so that should help them get through be successful in the academy. It will help shorten the length of time we have to put them through a field training officer program.
Okay, good.
And like I said, we're gonna wrap back around to you, because I know there's probably other stuff you wanna share. Next on discussion items is our website overhaul update. We have a memo in here from City Manager John Hanford. I'll turn that over to you.
Yeah, I think I just have to report that's progressing really well. We'll have a great company to present. The companies I spoke to are all been really good. They're very reasonably priced, which I think I said last time is unusual in this day and age. And so we'll have a great recommendation for all of you at the next council meeting, and we'll move forward. And with that recommendation, it'll have the timeline for the conversion. And it's one of those where, when that's being done, the existing site will not change until the new site is ready to go live, so there won't be any service disruption for that.
Great. Thank you. Any questions regarding that discussion item? All right, the last discussion item is our council boards and commissions meeting times. This is something I brought to John when he and I were having one of our meetings. I know that you probably have all read the memo that's in here. I'm gonna turn it over to him, but it's maybe a shift in, our start times, and so it was something that I told him to talk to the different chairs about, to bring it, to council, for your consideration, so I'm gonna turn that over.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Gilroy, members of council. So the 7 o'clock start time, it's somewhat of across the state and probably even across the country. That's meetings always start at 9, but as communities have moved through time and, there's been different levels of participation in board members, vacancies, things like that, and just thinking through how we can possibly get people to maybe do something differently to get more people participating. The thought was to look at possibly adjusting the start time. And I know that for council, it's different because you ran under a certain pretext that your meetings would be second and fourth Monday at 7 o'clock. So I know it's a lot more discussion maybe than for some of the other boards and committees. So what I'm going to be doing throughout the next couple of meeting cycles, our first one, we had a DDA meeting last week, and we threw the question out there to the group, and there wasn't unanimous thoughts about moving to 6 o'clock. There's one person whose best start time could be 6:30, but we're going to pick that discussion back up at our next meeting. I'll be asking Planning Commission and Parks and Rec as we move forward. But for council, again, what's a little different, we do have a city charter that specifies that we should meet at least once a month, unless we create an ordinance that says otherwise. And our current ordinance is included, or an excerpt, that our regular meeting in business is the second and fourth Monday at 7 p.m. So if we're going to make any adjustments, we would have to amend our ordinance. So, yeah, again, this is just to start the discussion. I didn't expect anybody to give their unfiltered opinion tonight, but just something to consider.
Sure.
So.
And the reason why I brought this to John is, I so value and I so appreciate the time that our city clerk, our deputy clerk put in. But I also know that most of our city staff does not live here in Williamston like we do as council members. And I really want to value their time and their dedication. And so if there's something we can do that, it kind of shortens that span from the time they end their day at 5, and, they may not have time to go home, get back here by 7. Maybe even better for some of our board members and council members that, if we start early, we can get home earlier, spend time with family. It's just something to consider. Same thing in here, we did not have one meeting last month or earlier this month because we had people on vacation. So being mindful of summer schedules when people do a lot of vacationing, that we can be more accommodating, still get business done, but maybe be a little bit more flexible with our schedule throughout the year and also start times. Dan?
For me, and I know, for me, 7 o'clock works best. I get, have a lot of practices.
Mm-hmm.
Practices usually start at 5:30. If I have to leave early to get here, I'm leaving 15 minutes early to get here for a 7 o'clock start time.
Yeah.
We move until 6 o'clock, I'm missing an entire practice, or I'm missing dinner with my kids instead of, I get them through dinner, and we get through most of, practice. So for me, I mean, 7 o'clock works
Okay.
the best
Sure.
for me.
And that's why it's a discussion item. Terry?
For me, 6 o'clock works better,
Okay.
just
All right.
works for me.
And, we don't want to have to all, unless you really want to put it out there. But we can have those conversations with John, and it'll be John taking that consensus, and it may be different for each board. Planning may say, you know what, we want to, bust this out and get home because we've got things, or like DDA, we have one business owner that really, she wouldn't be able to start meetings until 6:30, but, they all like maybe just that half-hour bump. So it's just food for thought, and nothing is set in stone, and John will come back with either a suggestion for us, or, hey, we're going to keep it at 7, but we're going to take our summer months and we're going to do 1 meeting a month instead of 2 meetings, and hopefully free up some time for some of our boards and some of our members. So.
Hey, and I know you've been on council quite a bit longer than I have, but I've been here for a while. I know we did have to cancel a meeting earlier this month, but that's the first meeting we've come close, we've had some meetings with 4, but that's the first meeting since I've been on council that we've lacked a quorum.
Yeah.
So while Well, we did have that. I don't know that, I mean, we have a meeting today that is going much
Longer
we're not done yet, and we have a much longer agenda because
Right.
we
Yep.
didn't have a meeting.
I think it's more other boards that some, we see the notices that lack of agenda items for planning or for DD, for Parks and Rec and everything. So again, this is just something, it may apply to some boards, not to other boards, just to try to be a little bit more flexible with schedules, so. Other questions, Terry? Steve?
More of a comment. I like what I see the city manager and the staff doing as far as constantly challenging the process, or looking at things and say, yeah, it's always been done that way, but are there better ways to do it? So I would see this as one of those steps. And I'm assuming that if it doesn't work, if you do go to the new time and it doesn't work, we can always go back to the other time.
Absolutely, absolutely. If anybody's has a quality background, you know that there's always opportunity for continuous improvement, right?
Good,
So,
appreciate that comment.
yeah, absolutely. John?
Just two things. I've been going to 7 o'clock council meetings, I think, since Clinton was in the White House, so it doesn't matter to me.
Right.
And then secondly, if we were to make, any change, we should really do this either at the start of the calendar year or even at the start of the new fiscal year.
The new fiscal
So-
year,
so
yeah, it would not
everybody
be
has a
immediate.
chance to adjust to it, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah, and for me, and most of my council members sitting around this table, if we've had individual conversations, I always tell everyone, it's always family first with me. I would never, ever expect anybody to put the business of the city over their family. It's just, that is a hard no for me, so if that ever happens and I find out your family came second, we'll have a talk in the alley. No, I'm just kidding. But I really do. I value family so much because, before you know it, you don't have time to spend with family. So I appreciate, every meeting that everybody attends and the dedication that they put in for this city. I really do. Any other questions regarding that? So we'll have John give us and provide his feedback, and he may just end up doing like a survey to all the boards after he talks with them and see if he gets consensus or something, or maybe he'll come back and say, no, I'll just say it's 7. So, but I appreciate the open conversation that we can have when these types of ideas come up, and you're absolutely right. We do it a certain way for so long, but challenge and see if there's something else out there, so I appreciate that. All right, well, that ends our discussion items. Moving on for our correspondence received information only, we do not have any. So we'll roll right into our department head report. So I'll go ahead and go back over to our city manager, John Hanson.
I think you're about an hour into my whiny voice, so I'll go ahead and move on to Chief Young, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody has any questions for John, you can always contact him. We know where his office is, and we know the phone number and all of that good stuff. So Chief, let's roll right back to you. We know that we have National Night coming up, so give us the details.
It's a week from tomorrow.
Yep.
And just from a historical perspective, when I came here in 2010, we did our first National Night Out, and we started it. Terry Nelson took the lead on it, and John P. Long, one of our officers, took a strong lead on it.
Yep.
And it started out small at Dahlstrom Park, and then we went to McCormick Park, and it got way bigger than I ever anticipated. It was a huge community event.
Yes.
And then COVID came.
Yep.
And so we didn't have National Night Out for a year, and then we started going out in the neighborhoods and giving out popsicles and different things, and in conjunction with NISA. And that's what they done for the last couple of years.
Yep.
And so this year, NISA is not available to participate with us. And we decided to do it a little differently, to bring it back to McCormick Park and Volunteers Park. And so there will be a lot of communication going out starting on Monday. We just finalized that with, and again, I can't emphasize Terry and John. And when we did it in the park, we had a lot of civic groups, a lot of community joining in on that. And the goal is to get back there someday, but that's not this year. And so those two parks, and we're going to condense the time from 6 to 8. And so we've got flyers at D&W. We'll get flyers out around town. It's going to be out on Facebook. And so any way we can get the information out, we want people to come and have our community, particularly our youth, interact with the police. And so even though we are short-staffed, we've got reserves, we're gonna have plenty of officers in both those areas. And so,
Great. Can you give us a tiny little highlight of what, if our residents come, they bring their kids, what type of activities?
I'm not gonna give you all the secrets.
Well, no, I don't want it. I want one little nugget.
There will be cold food that kids will like.
Okay,
But then, and this is not my creativity, it's Bonnie. She went crazy and got a bunch of different things
Okay.
that they haven't seen before. And
Excellent.
so I think the
Excellent.
kids will be happy.
perfect. Well, I'm glad that this is coming back to, I love the idea of going throughout the neighborhoods because, you know, the kids are running out and they're getting their ice cream and their popsicles and stuff. But there's something about when a community gathers in a location and you get to talk to people that you haven't seen or, you know, the interaction. And I was a part of it for many years as a reserve officer. That's one thing I want to touch on again too. Even though we only have 4 full-time officers, your reserve department is so valuable. These people
Yeah.
give up their time, talents, efforts to be a reserve officer, to suit up just like our full-time officers, be in that car, respond to calls with our full-time officers. And they do it because they love this community. It is not a paid position, it's volunteer hours. There is a process that you go through to be a reserve officer. Chief was gracious enough to let me do it for 4.5 years, and I loved it. It was amazing.
How many
Yes.
volunteer officers are there, reserve?
Reserve,
So in the past, we've typically had 10 to 12.
10 to
Right?
12?
Yes. Right now, we're down to half a dozen.
okay,
And some of the younger ones have moved on, and some of the older ones are still there. And so we are always open for more reserves. Back to National Night Out, we did have quite a bit of debate amongst us, whether just to do it all at McCormick Park or to split it
I
up.
like the
And so
idea of
I'm
two
not so sure we got it
locations.
right, so I'll be looking at input from everybody. And we wanted people not to have to go as far, not that the town's that big, not that those 2 parks are that far apart, but we chose to do it that way this year.
they're both great locations, so I'm excited to see what you do in both locations. You know, I think it's great, you know. So, please, council members, as soon as you see that on social media, share it. It's such an important event. I'm glad that it's, you know, we're bringing people back into a location again. I mean, it's great going through the neighborhoods and stuff, but that can turn into a long evening because you want to make sure that you hit everybody. And I know that you guys did fantastic, you know, doing that over the past couple of years. But I like that you've got it back in the parks because, you know, our parks are great. And everybody that pitches in and helps with this event are great too, so can't wait to see it next week.
Did I address the staffing question adequately? For what we're dealing with, I'm very pleased to be where we're at right now, and I think we're sustainable. And I appreciate what you have all done, and I don't see anything more that needs to be done right now.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chief, appreciate it. We have our building report from Livingston County. They take care of all of our permitting and inspections. There's definitely activity happening, and that's always good to see. If you do have questions regarding something, please reach out to City Manager John Hannafin. He can get those questions answered for you through Livingston County. Subcommittee reports. Does anybody want to report on any of their meetings?
I just have
Yes.
a question.
Yes, Steve.
The purpose of these 20 pages.
Yes, it's
So
showing,
that's-
yeah, it's showing what has been pulled through Livingston County. So several years ago, we made the choice as council to move away from AGS, which was a firm that was on retainer for us that did all of our permitting and inspections. Underneath our city manager, Corey Schmidt, he reached out to Livingston County, and this does not cost us anything as a municipality. This is not a budget line item, correct?
Yep.
And so they do this for us. If you were getting ready to, you know, build a shed or put on a new roof or something, our city staff would direct you to Livingston County for those permits, information on what you're doing. We've had a fantastic relationship with them for almost 3 years now, Dan? Yeah. And so this report just shows you all the activity that's happening in Williamston, whether it's residential or commercial. And so we get to see what's happening. It's, if people have questions about, you know, they wanna put a new roof on their house, what do they need to do? Ann Casper, who's great, Barb, who's great, we direct them to Livingston County for all that permitting and inspection.
I just don't, for me, I don't see the value of 20 pages
Oh,
of,
go ahead, John.
So, I think when we were printing packets, paper packets before, you know, it's kind of like, okay, you know, why would we continue to print 20 pages? But even though it's digital, I mean, if council's just, if you're comfortable with the summary, you can do that. Again, it's no difference to
Sure.
us staff-wise.
I think, go ahead,
But
Terry.
some folks like having the full detail.
I go through it and it's a challenge to myself. Where is that located in town? What street is that? What part of the town is that? And what's going on there? I think it's kind of a, sort of a summary of, I read this book and it was talking about improving small towns. And the way it works out is there's municipal dollars and there's private dollars. So people need to put private dollars into improving the town, doing things like what's on that list. And then the government, the municipal government, puts money into things like roads and sewers and stuff like that. And the ratio, they said, for a good town, the ratio is like 15 to 1.
Sure.
So there needs to be plenty of people doing plenty of things to keep Williamston going in a positive direction. And this is like a list of, this is what people are doing.
Yeah.
So
It is, and I can honestly say, Steve, that when we had our former company that was handling it, there was a lot of frustration with our residents that they were getting,
awful.
they were not getting timely callbacks. They would call for inspections, it didn't happen, it kind of held up different people's projects. Having Livingston County kind of oversee this and manage this for us, it has been, we've gotten so many compliments that we love working with Livingston County. We had to put in a fence, they directed us. It's just kind of an overview of what's happening as far as our residents go. Or, hey, so-and-so's trying to build a pole barn in their backyard and I don't see the permit outside, or, we don't think they're doing it the right way. We can sit there and say, hey, Livingston County is on top of it, they know what's going on. In the paper packet, lots of pages. Digitally, it's just, it's there for you to read if you want to read it.
thank you.
You bet, no problem. All right. Subcommittee, committee reports. Anybody attend a meeting that they want to share information on? Yes?
I went to the NISA meeting on
Yes.
the city's behalf, and
Yep.
it was enlightening. I'll just kind of leave it at that.
Okay, all right, not a problem. Thank you so much for going. Both of our members were on vacation, and so while we didn't have a voice at the actual table, we still had John there representing the city so that he could be our eyes and ears for that, in that relationship. So I appreciate you taking the time and going to that. Audience participation, would anybody like to come forward? This is one more time that if anybody's there, want to come forward? All right, I'm gonna move on. Thought you were gonna maybe come forward. Council member comments. I will start with Terry.
Nothing.
Steve. Scott.
Just want to thank the chief for another 6 months, appreciate it, sir.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, Dan.
No comments.
All right. Well, I think I'll just kind of close out with just one more reminder, National Night Out. I'm so happy that it's going to be back in the parks. We will definitely make sure that all that information gets shared on social media. I would highly encourage our community members to come out, bring your kids. If they've not ever met one of our, police officers, it's a great opportunity to get to know them because they are fantastic. There's still plenty of activity happening in town with our band shell nights on Thursday evenings, our farmer's market on Sunday. The new basketball court surface looks great, so I hope the kids love it. So they can play hoops. The fencing looks great. I know that there's still a bit more to happen over there. Looks like everything's getting cleaned up from Jubilee, but, I'm sure you guys are already, maybe knee-deep in planning for next year. If you want an opportunity to volunteer, Jubilee would be a great, opportunity. Look into that. But, we're winding down through summer. You think that you're gonna have, long summer, but we will come back again and it will be August for our next meeting. So I appreciate everybody's time. I hope you've enjoyed your time off with your families and get those last few summer vacations in before it'll be football season. And we'll be moving on to, other things to talk about. And with that, I think I will go ahead and adjourn at 8:09. Not bad, I thought it was gonna go longer.